Well, I guess the Strouds are going to blow up my car now. Grassy Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't, I do Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Never a doubt, totally wasn't a stressful game at all. Grassy. And today, we are going to be breaking down the Green Bay Packers victory over the Houston Strouds with a score of 24-22 and a game-winning field goal that lifts the Packers to a 5-2 record. And this game, all right, there's a lot heading into this game. Obviously, look at the Texans, and they were missing 5 defensive starters, which obviously made a difference in this game. However, the Texans are still a very good football team. CJ Stroud, phenomenal quarterback. They still got plenty of weapons, even though they got some injuries. They still got Stefon Diggs. They still got Tank Dell. And Stefon Diggs and Jaire Alexander, that beef has not gone away because it was very chippy during that game. Stefon Diggs even said afterwards that he does not get over things. Jaire Alexander did not speak with the media, but you could see that those two were going at it all day, and there was no love lost. But speaking of love, Jordan Love, you had a tale of 2 quarterbacks today, as Love went 24 for 33, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and was sacked 3 times. And this game marks Jordan Love's 5th straight game with an interception, but also 7th straight game with a touchdown, so I guess it balanced itself out. But Jordan Love led that drive at the very end, did that 2-minute drill to get McManus in range for that game-winning field goal. And Love, yes, there are times where it's going to be super duper frustrating, and then the very next play, he's going to turn around and make the most amazing throw you ever seen. And again, this is kind of what we were talking about last year, especially during the beginning of the season, that he just needs to get over these turnover issues and know when the play is dead. The problem is that a lot of times, like take that Jayden Reed throw that we were talking about from a couple games back, where it was the most insane throw in between defenders, and it's like that should have probably never happened, but it worked. And I feel like as Jordan Love progresses throughout his career, I really don't have too many concerns, but cleaning up some turnovers is going to be one of them. I also think it's heightened the fact that we had Aaron Rodgers, the guy who never threw interceptions, and now you have Jordan Love coming in and throwing some, but again, he's the kind of guy that can rebound from those mistakes, as you saw today, because overall, besides those interceptions, Jordan Love had a pretty damn good game. And unfortunately, 3 of those turnovers, 2 were on Love. The other one was on special teams, and Ballantyne touching the ball was infuriating because the Packers could have gotten out to a sizable lead and kept the Texans in with putting the defense in really bad positions, who we'll talk about. The defense played phenomenally today. But the Packers, they could have gotten a bigger lead, but instead were trailing heading into halftime. But we aren't just talking about Jordan Love, 82 rushing yards total from the offense, but Jacobs 12 for 76 and also had his first career receiving touchdown. It's been long enough, but a huge congratulations to Josh Jacobs as he finally got one. Romeo Doubs was the leading receiver, 8 for 94. And I just got to take a second. We talked about Romeo Doubs, who had 2 touchdowns last week. Amazing hands of Romeo Doubs. And this guy means a ton to this team. Romeo Doubs obviously went through those issues, but is a phenomenal wide receiver for this team, has that chemistry with Love, and is one of the best ball catchers on the team. Wicks and Kraft also had a TD. But the star of the show today is that frackin' defense, because that defense, there were plenty of times where he had multiple turnovers that they were put in bad situations, and still 9 times out of 10, they did pretty damn well. Evan Williams continuing his tear, having a phenomenal game. Eric Wilson, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, and 1 pass defended. Xavier McKinney with a sack. Rashawn Gary finally with a sack, and the Packers defense only allowed 3 points in the second half from the Texans. And by the way, CJ Stroud, he did not have himself a good day. Went 10 for 21 for 86 yards and was sacked 4 times, and that is a career low for yards for CJ Stroud. So while the Packers did allow a lot of rushing yards, Mixon went 25 for 115 on the ground and 2 touchdowns, the Packers were really able to limit what CJ Stroud was able to do. Also, the Texans' offensive line did not look good. And look, we finally had a pass rush, which was phenomenal to see. But the fact that their leading receiver was Dalton Schultz with 1 catch for 28 yards is pretty damn good. So on the defensive side of the ball, I could not be happier. Looking at the Packers' special teams, besides that botched punt, which is just infuriating at this point, and they just need to run away from the ball or just yell, Peter, 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 the Packers It seems like we have a kicker. Brandon McManus was tasked with coming in for a 45-yard game-winning field goal. He hit it once, they iced the kicker. And then he hit it a second time, jumping into the stands for a Lambeau leap. And you know what? It's kind of nice to know that we have some stability at that position. And it's funny because Anders Carlson in the 49ers game hit a 55-yard field goal. And I was like, of course, this just makes all the sense in the world. He leaves the Packers and hits a 55-yarder, but then missed an extra point. And I was like, that's the part that I do not miss. Also want to shout out Daniel Whelan, who I talked about before this season, and how later in the season last year, he kind of struggled outdoors with punting the ball, but he has been phenomenal this season. He put in a ton of work. There was a bunch of interviews about the work that he put in over this offseason. And today, you saw it, had 5 punts for 284 yards with a long of 66 with a 56.8 average, which is phenomenal. A true game changer and completely shifted the field. So a huge shout out to Daniel Whelan. And so looking at this game overall, this is a huge win for the Packers. Also just to keep pace in the NFC North. The Lions were victorious today over the Vikings, ending their undefeated streak. And so now the Lions are sitting on top of there. The Vikings already have a win over us. And in a couple weeks, the Packers are going to be taking on the Lions. So to get this win at Lambeau Field against a good up-and-coming team who, yes, was down a few starters, the Packers defense played phenomenally well today. Jeff Hafley devised a pretty damn good game plan. And while the Packers did struggle at times, especially with turnovers, they were able to rally. They got the ball back at the end, drove down the field. That's why you paid Jordan Love all that money. That's why they brought in McManus, and they're now sitting here at 5-2. Unfortunately, for injury purposes, Quay Walker left this game with a concussion. Hopefully he is okay because the run game for the Texans really got amped up after Quay Walker left that game. But next week, the Packers will be taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had a win today against the Patriots. The Jaguars have been struggling, so hopefully the Packers will be able to take care of business then, because there's some NFC North opponents coming down the pipe, and yeah, they're going to have to be ready for it. But the Packers, this was a gutsy win today and an imperfect game, but being able to get their playmakers to rally and get that game-winning field goal, yeah, I'm feeling pretty damn good about it, and 5-2, baby. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How did you feel about this Packers win? How do you feel about the Packers going forward? Right now, a big win, on to the Jaguars. Let me know what you think. You guys, find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. A big shout and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.